Well, hello to all my nip tuckers out there. Well, I can't believe I just called people that. Hi, everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is EJ, and we have a new video series starting on this channel. I want to look at iconic series of television that I have been addicted to that shaped my life, but also shaped the history of television. What are these shows that really made an impact on so many people? In this channel, we usually focus on things from Ryan Murphy. We always talk about American Horror Story. I've done Hollywood and Ratched. So I wanted to look at the Ryan Murphy show that started it all for me, the one that had me hooked, and the one that really changed television for the better. Yes, in this video, we are going to be looking at season 1 of Nip Tuck. I want to dive into the best episodes, the worst moments, and why I think this was such a formative moment for television, and what really did just shape us into where we are now with extreme television, the more prestige type of shows. There is a lot to cover in this video, so prepare and let's get into it right now. Nip Tuck is a Ryan Murphy series that aired on FX from 2003 to 2010. This was, again, formative years for my life. I was basically 12 and 13 to almost in my early 20s. This was truly a time in my life. I remember just being hooked on this every week, wanting to know what the hell McNamara Troy was going to be into next. It was always fulfilling, and the show went on, and it wasn't my favorite by the end, and they do the shift to Los Angeles, which throws off the Florida vibes, which I loved, the Florida aesthetic, the Florida atmosphere of this. So when they do the Los Angeles shift, I definitely I'm not into the series as much as I was in these first couple seasons, but we are focusing on season 1, the introduction. Now, Ryan Murphy really wanted to make something different. He was a known name-ish with the show Popular, but he wasn't where we know him now until Nip Tuck. He debuted that first season and it exploded on the scene. It really pushed a lot of boundaries. FX at that time was doing some more progressive content. They had things like Rescue Me. I know The Shield was right around the corner. So this was the network that was known for pushing boundaries, and Nip Tuck was boundary pushing every single time. The first episode of this alone has pedophilia, it has a child wanting a circumcision, it has all those crazy Nip Tuck things in just the first 30 minutes of the episode. And then we get to episode 2, 3, and 4. We're seeing the overarching the Escobar kind of season that this is going to be. We start seeing all the groundwork so early in, and this really had viewers hooked. It really had a lot of people into it from early on. We also have the fantastic acting from our lead two characters, Julian McMahon and Dylan Walsh. As much as both of these characters annoy me to no end, it was pretty easy to say that these are two of the most recognizable characters and what they did and what their characters went through, and these actors delivered deliciously evil and sometimes pathetic performances. I hate Sean's character so much, but Dylan Walsh eats it up each and every time. Every time I'm like, what is Sean getting into? I'm just delighted at what Dylan is doing as an actor. Same thing to go with what Christian is dealing with and the disgustingness that is Christian Troy. And I guess after the Me Too movement is seeing Christian's characters just Jesus Christ, wow, we were just laying out how shitty we were treating women before it was the conversation in Hollywood. It's pretty wild, and I love Julian McMahon. I watched that shitty Fantastic Four movie he was in just because I wanted to see him, and I was a Nip Tuck fan. So yeah, I like the introduction of this. I like where the season starts. I like where this show starts, and I like what it was doing for television at that time. Go back to 2003, 2004. What was on TV like this at the time? Maybe Grey's Anatomy was just starting. We were kind of at the tail end of ER being the big procedural surgery show, but Nip Tuck came in with overarching stories. They tried to tell not just weekly medical things, which they are, and there's some very great cases like the Net Babcock in this first season. I love that episode. I mean, there was a lot of them that really stood out, but kind of had through lines through different episodes. We had characters who would come back. Yes, other shows have done that, but the way Nip Tuck tried to do it, it made it feel more soap opera. It made it feel like must-see television. You can skip an episode of Grey's Anatomy sometimes and not really miss much, but if you missed a Nip Tuck, you were lost and going, who's this new character? Who's the new Nazi? What is this drug dealer? Like, you would just be like, Jesus, there is just so much happening. That's what I mean about appointment television, and that's what this was. All right, now let's get into some of the best episodes, some of the worst moments, and where I think Ryan Murphy really started to show out. In this first season, there's about 4 or 5 episodes that I think are just honestly iconic. I'm going to name a few that I love. The pilot. One of my favorite pilots of television ever. You instantly know the world, the characters, what we're going to get into. It shows all of the craziness. This first episode of Nip Tuck is just insane. Like, my boyfriend was walking around being like, bro, what the hell is happening? Like, he could not follow it because it was just too crazy. So much being thrown at you. We're getting the drug dealer stuff. We're getting how the relationship works between Christian and Sean, how different they are, but also how similar they are, where we're going to start going. We start meeting iconic characters like Kimber and Mrs. Grubman already in this first episode. And then, I mean, Mrs. Grubman is kind of an overarching story this first season because, you know, in the Nanette Babcock episode, they leave I believe some kind of tool in her where, you know, they were supposed to make sure that's not in her, which leads her to wanting to sue them, and then she starts getting free surgery. So she's like an overarching character, but we cannot talk about overarching characters without bringing up Kimber. Her first episode is just so heartbreaking because I know the journey we're about to go on with this character, and it's sad and it's disgusting, and the way this Troy, you know, Christian, and I mean Sean, and how even Matt, which we will talk about Matt being my least favorite character in all of television in a second. But yeah, I liked seeing these characters. I thought this was a solid introduction. Then I would go on to the Nanette Babcock episode as showing them trying to find the morality in what they do of this overweight woman, and maybe she's not the best patient to take on, and there's other routes they can go, so they're trying to, and the push and pull with that, and the mental illness. And I like this episode a lot. We get the Mrs. Grubman suture thing. We're starting to see some of the cracks in the foundation of Sean's family. I mean, that shit starts in episode 1, but we're really starting to see it. And then Matt finds out his girlfriend's cheating on him with another woman, and then eventually later on in the season, he's gonna hit that girl with a car. Matt. This actor does fine. He definitely grows into this character, and I like him a bit more closer to the end, especially in the Hollywood era of him. But boy, does he feel insufferable in this early seasons. I would take that little annoying little girl that was in the family. I can't even think of her name at the moment. I will take her before I think of any moments with Matt. And that's not saying anything against the mother character, because oh, Julia, she really tries. I mean, Jolie Richardson does her damn thing. She's kind of the MVP of this first season. I think she's very underrated. Her relationship with Sean and her weird interactions with Christian and their history. There's a lot in here that I thought was so, like, oh my goodness. Like, I really like the Julia character. I think she's vastly underrated. I think she gets lost in the craziness of the show because, I don't know, women on the show are either, I don't know, the women on the show have a crazy time, because look at Liz, who is their anesthesiologist, a key part of this, but boy, do they treat her god-awful from the first episode, basically, until she has to quit and leave and come back and do all this stuff, and I'm like, Liz, you should have just stayed left, because you're about to get shot in this first season, you're about to have the worst time ever. And yeah, I really liked these moments. And then let's talk about that final episode, Escobar Galado's episode. He is this evil, villainous drug lord who is, they kind of screw him over in the first episode, and he comes back with a vengeance by injecting Christian with some Botox early on, and it's disgusting. They make, Escobar basically makes them kill somebody, and then that first episode we're seeing which I always thought was something we could always do, is tying up ham to a human body so the gators can eat it. That is all crazy. So I'm just like, how the hell, like, first time watching, how the hell do they deal with the Escobar stuff? What are they going to do with him? And then they do this weird thing where he wants facial reconstruction surgery because he's a pretty wanted drug dealer. So what do they do? Oh my goodness, in the biggest oh my god moment of this first season. And I truly knew I was hooked because of this great finale moment. I love it. It's when they give him a new face, and it happens to be someone who is more wanted than him. It's just genius little moments. It's a good way of tying all the stories together with the facial reconstruction that happened in the first episode to where it's at in the finale, to finally trying to maybe wrap up the story. It's definitely not the end of that. There's a lot more Escobar to go later on, especially when he's like a ghostly figure. Jesus Christ. But yeah, no, I like this. I thought it really kind of showed the evolution from first episode to final episode. This is a strong first season of television. I really think there's not a lot of flaws in it. There are some, and let's get into them right now. Season 1 is not a perfect season. Honestly, all Ryan Murphy shows kind of have their moments that are a bit look, I know this is a very 2022 kind of mindset, but boy, are some of the issues on this show insanely problematic looking back on it, especially when we get to LGBT characters. The Liz stuff, we'll talk about it more if we dive into Nip Tuck more after just this one video. But wow, Liz's character goes through a lot. But the Sofia Lopez story, I just was like, do y'all know trans folk? Like, just the storyline, I just thought it was not handled the best. And that's kind of a theme with trans people on this show are not handled the best at all. This was the first example of it. And for a show that is so queer infused, I always talk about it with American Horror Story. It is not a queer series, but there's so much influence. Nip Tuck has that as well, but I don't always love the queer handling of characters. Some of the homophobia, some of the transphobia, some of just the general, like, yikes, I don't think y'all consulted anyone on how to handle this. Those are those little moments that I definitely feel are here. I would also say I have to meet the worst character in Nip Tuck history, which is Gina. Oh my goodness. The shit that this character goes through, that she takes us as viewers through, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I wish I could just remove that storyline, especially because we're already doing something similar with Kimber, like the Kimber storyline. Yeah, they kind of throw her off to the Bobbitt guy and all that, but I was just like, can I flesh out her and Christian's relationship more before we do the Gina thing, and then she gets pregnant, and then the baby and all that? I'm like, it just feels messy. It feels like it's not as streamlined as it should be. Gina would have been a decent season 2 story. It's just trying to overpack season 1. That's definitely one of my only complaints. I did talk about it as a jam-packed season, especially that first episode, but sometimes it is a bit overwhelming. I've watched the show before, but I'm going through like episode 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I'm like, geez, there's so much happening, and there's not a lot of filler here, but there is definitely some moments that I'm like, maybe we could have cut that out, chop that up, do something different. Maybe angle the storylines a little bit better. I think this first season could have been streamlined to even a 10-episode first season. The 13 episodes are fine. Like I said, I love the finale. I love the first episode. And the middle is not bad, but it's definitely an overwhelming season. I think they focus on stuff a bit better, like the Carver angle from season 2 and season 3. The Carver stuff, I think, is handled a lot better. They're not trying to add in even more on top of it. Yeah, Joan Rivers and shit shows up at one point in season 2, but you know what I'm saying? I like what they were trying to do in the other seasons, and I definitely think season 1 is Ryan Murphy going, I don't know if we're going to do this again, so let's throw every wild-ass idea I have, and they throw a lot of wild stuff at the season. For me, season 1 of Nip Tuck is one of those defining moments of the 2000s. You needed this show to happen to get where we were later on, to get where we were with Ryan Murphy projects, because after this he goes to Glee and then American Horror Story, and his whole career just shifts into where he is now, being the Emmy-nominated insane man for Dahmer and things like that. I like to see it. I definitely think this was a shift in television, in prestige television, and where we're going. I mean, in the Ryan Murphy universe, he starts introducing some of his most infamous actors in here. We have Leslie Grossman in the first season alone. Also, where is Julian McMahon in a American Horror Story? I got Dermot McDermott, but I couldn't get this man who have similar energy. But anyways, yeah, I like that this was the start of a lot for us Ryan Murphy fans, for us as extreme television fans, because boy, again, there was nothing like Nip Tuck at that time. HBO was doing the HBO thing where their adult content, Sex and the City, The Oz, Sopranos, they were definitely doing more mature content. But for like a cable channel, nobody was doing what Nip Tuck was doing. But now all the girls want to do it. Even Grey's Anatomy, even all those damn Chicago Med and all that shit, they've even got gorier because they can see what you can get away with surgery stuff. Look, I like this first Nip Tuck season a lot. It has some very big highs, it has some lows, but not as much as you would think. Overall, I think it's a strong first season of a show and one of my favorite shows ever. I mean, truly, I was hooked on this, and I hope you guys are as well. Let me know if you want to go venture back to the Nip Tuck seasons. What did you think of season 1? Do you want me to look at season 2, talk about my favorite moments, my least favorite stuff? Or do you want me to go episode by episode? I will if you all enjoyed. So share your thoughts in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy, and subscribe to my channel if you like videos like this, because I make them, I would say, every single week, but it's been tough. Christmas season, getting sick, there's just a lot going on. So I make these videos when I can, but I would love to come back every week. So if you guys like this Nip Tuck stuff, I would dive into episodes and more seasons for all of you. So share your thoughts, all that jazz. Let's get into all of Nip Tuck and tell me your favorite characters, your favorite episode of first season down below.